everyone, welcome to Rebel Eaters Club with commentary, episode 3, part 1. The title of this video is Move and Eat for Fun with Dr. Deb Burgard. And it's 34 minutes long, which means this first part will be at least 17 minutes, probably closer to 30, maybe even a little bit longer. And once again, I'm going to be doing this at 1.5 speed to kind of save my sanity. And quick disclaimer, I may very well, I half expect this to go into a very weird realm. Depending on how outlandish this gets, I may choose not to do the part 2, but we'll see how weird this goes. Alright, without further ado, let's get started.
There's a cute ice cream shop across the street from Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. It's called Tin Pot Creamery. The store is tiny, but when it comes to ice cream, it's epic. They've got flavors like blue jasmine tea, lemon cookie with rosemary, and hazelnut coffee orange. Yum. When I was there a few months ago, I was trying to decide, what should I get? A combination? A sundae? A whole tasting flight? It's like the best kind of FOMO. And then I noticed my body was moving. I was dancing. Just a little dance back and forth on my heels. I looked around because I was feeling a little embarrassed. And then I saw another woman. She was doing it too. I laughed and asked the cashier, do people always get wriggly at the counter? Oh yeah, she said. It's called the ice cream dance. And then I remembered being a kid in the summer, wearing my polka dot bathing suit and the ice cream dances I would do back then. I played with my food all the time. I love sticking my chubby little fingers into pitted black olives, one on each finger, and then I'd plop all 10 of them into my mouth. So I looked like a gerbil and made my friends laugh. And then I'd laugh, and then we'd start all over again. I had so much fun playing with my food. What happened to that? When did we all get the message that we had to stop turning our mashed potatoes into snowmen, or stop letting a fruit roll-up turn our tongues bright red? Remember the surprise every time from Pop Rocks? We are biologically designed to love eating. Pleasure is one of the ways our bodies tell us what they need to survive. It's real, good, intimate information from our bodies to our brains through our excellent senses. Pleasure is powerful.
Alright, and so we are starting to enter into a weird place already. So, yes, as a kid, I didn't do the thing where I put 10 olives in my mouth, but I did put, those black pitted olives on my fingers as a kid. Playing with your food is very much a kid thing. I don't think that anyone got the message that, well, some people I'm sure did get the message not to play with your food. There's a variety of reasons for that, but part of it is also, I don't know, there's something that someone told me once, I don't remember why, but rather than looking at food as something to constantly consume and waste, because if it's one thing I've noticed with the fat acceptance movement, there seems to be this kind of promotion of food waste. And it's not, direct, just leave it, or, don't eat. There's just, I don't know, there's something that feels, maybe it's not food waste specifically, but there's something generally very wasteful about them that I find that bothers me. But someone once told me that don't look at food as something pleasurable to be consumed for fun, because then you're treating it like a hobby. But to respect food, in that respect that either an animal died to give you the food, an animal was, you took the milk from the cow to help sustain you. Respect the farmers that put all their work into growing the food so that way you could eat. And respect the fact that you have enough money to have the food when many people have to go without. So you don't just mindlessly consume the food, you respect the food and the nourishment that it gives you, and focus on taking what you need. Now, I'm not always good at following that, but I felt like that was a better approach than this. And I think to a certain extent that playing with your food can lead to more food waste. It doesn't necessarily have to, but it can. Part of the reason why parents don't want their children to play with their food is that, if you're playing with mashed potatoes, they're going to get cold before you eat them. Which then the kids, I guess you could just heat it up, but food never tastes the same when it's heated up versus when you get it, fresh off the stove or from the oven.
And because somewhere along the way, a lot of cultures decided that our bodies were bad, dangerous, threatening, evil, pleasure became bad too. Here in the US, it goes right back to the religious roots of this country, to a preoccupation with controlling and dominating people, production, and land. This stuff goes back to the 1800s with guys like Reverend Sylvester Graham. If that name sounds familiar, it's because of his connection to graham crackers. He was the leader of the dietary reform movement, which believed that if you ignored your appetite for delicious and exciting food, you could learn to ignore other, more dangerous desires, like sex and independent thinking. I mean, this dude hated masturbation. To him, it was the thing that would lead to the deterioration of the nation. He thought...
Okay, but one, this glorification of self-denial actually predates this by a lot. Protestants, and more specifically Puritans, were all about self-denial as a way to get closer to God. In fact, even in the medieval ages, whether you were Protestant or Catholic, the general idea was that you work in this life to earn a better life after death in the kingdom of heaven. There was this whole medieval religion class that I took, and it was really interesting because it showed a complete change in perspectives on a variety of things. But when we talk about food, and I don't really like the connection of food and pleasure, but if we're going to talk about the two, we'll talk about the two. It way predates the 1800s. Like, just to be clear, I don't know what it is with the fat acceptance, because we saw this in the Fearing the Black Body too, where they don't go back terribly far. Fearing the Black Body went back a little bit further, but they still don't go, like, you can go back to ancient Greece, and there was even a promotion of self-denial of fattening foods and promotion of eating fruits and vegetables as a way to maintain health. This philosophy has been around for centuries, for longer than centuries, millennia. So for one to see this as saying, oh, it was only just in the 1800s, kind of presents it as a newer concept than it really is. And then it tries to couple the fact that it's a new concept and therefore it's a bad concept because there was better wisdom in the older times, whatever. Which also to me suggests a bit of a boomer mentality in terms of this. In case you haven't noticed, in general, as time progresses, yes, there are things that were tweaked that weren't ideal, and there are some things that are just genuinely worse, like worker welfare. Like, well, yes and no. There's nuance to everything. But, I mean, even medieval peasants had something like 100 days off for different religious days. But then the work was a lot more physically and kind of caused bodies to deteriorate faster in terms of their ability. So there's a more nuanced approach there than I really want to go into. But I just don't like the presentation that this concept of self-denial for a greater benefit as a new idea bothers me.
He thought pleasure was a gateway to rebellion. It had to be stopped. Basically, he wanted to ban physical pleasure. He wanted to stop people from listening to the deep messages our bodies send about what they want and need. And you can still see that legacy in every supermarket, with halos over diet foods and guilt-free labeling about which foods are safe for our souls. But friends, it is time for rebellion. It is time to take back our appetites. Rebel eaters, we are stepping out of the shadows with our corn dogs held high, because we know pleasure and play are why we're here, floating around on a tiny perfect dirt ball in space. I'm Virgie Tovar.
Pleasure is why we're here, not to benefit the world. So this just, to me, goes to show how much she likes the concept of hedonism. She's very much, if she views it as the whole reason why we're here is to experience physical pleasure specifically, then she's a hedonist. And there's people that agree with that, and then there's people that have different perspectives, and then there's people with mixed or nuanced perspectives. I don't necessarily have a problem with the pursuit of physical pleasure, but I don't think that it is the be-all end-all to existence. I think humans are at their best and most self-actualized when there is a creative freedom, when there is the ability to create something, to invest yourself in something, to create something that the world otherwise wouldn't have seen. That, and I'd like to think that what humans are supposed to do are be stewards for the environment and protect it from ourselves and protect it protect them from even natural disasters, animals from natural disasters. And that's a different take that a lot of people don't share, but that's my take. But my overall point is that I don't think that our be-all, end-all point of being on this earth is for hedonistic pleasure. I disagree with that.
And this is Rebel Eaters Club. I want you to meet a woman who has helped so many people get back in touch with that simple pleasure in the body that I had as a kid, that I had again at the ice cream shop. Her name is Dr. Deb Burgard.
We are preparing the mochis.
Yes.
I want to describe the mochis here. So these are mild coffee flavor with dulce de leche centers. Yes. Do you want more?
She's an eating disorder specialist and a psychologist. The first time I ever saw Deb, she was shimmying with a hula hoop around her waist. We were at a conference, and she was grinning wider than anyone else. Deb loves to play with her food.
Yes.
And then there's a little plastic thing on top that you sort of pull down to get access.
Yes.
It's really erotic.
Okay, should we do it? Should we dive in?
Mmm.
You get like the rice flour first.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coffee and then the caramel.
And the chewy, there's like the dusting of the flour that gives it that that one kind of sensation, and then the chewy
Yes.
part of it, and then the ice cream, and it's like all these different textures. And
When they were opening the container and they said it was erotic, no. Oh, God. And now them describing and then the smacking, I'm not enjoying this at all. We're only 6 minutes in, so let's just keep on trucking along.
the coffee part of it is just so evocative for me. My grandmother used to love Howard Johnson's coffee ice cream. And it was like such a big deal. We would go out to get Howard Johnson's coffee ice cream. As a family, it was just such a treat.
Like
Such a
Howard
treat.
Johnson of the hotel
Yeah.
chains? Oh my gosh.
That was
Okay.
actually my first job too. I was like working behind the counter in St. Louis, at the Howard Johnson's, and but anyway.
So the coffee flavors evoke the Hojo past. I love that.
And my grandmother, who was brilliant, brilliant, and pretty much hated people in general, but loved me.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite people too. Yeah.
She was really before her time. She played jazz piano, and she always smoked like unfiltered Chesterfields that would sort of hang off of under her upper lip.
Oh, yes.
And when she was in college, she went to college at 16.
Wow.
She tried to sneak out all the time. This was like in the 20s, and go down to Manhattan and listen to the jazz in Manhattan. And so she was just a rebel,
Yes.
and she had told me one time she wanted to be a psychologist. She wanted to study with Pavlov at Cornell.
Whoa.
And her dad was kind of like, no, you're going to Connecticut College for Women. It's proper, blah, 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 blah.
So you come from a history of rebellious women.
I guess I do. I mean, she didn't
Deb
really-
came of age when fat activism was new. It got started officially in 1969 with the establishment of the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. And better than acceptance, Deb and the people she was working with were interested in how fat people could thrive. And that radical idea was the spark that took us from 1969 to what we now call body positivity.
So I'm a psychologist, and I have been doing that for quite a while, officially since the early 90s. But when I was pretty active in second wave feminism in college in the late 70s. And then when I came here to go to graduate school, I started teaching a dance class for fat women. And I called it We Dance, like nothing cutesy, no plays on words, just like We Dance. And I said, this is for women over 200 pounds, because again, let's not like beat around the bush. I want people who are higher weight to really get it, that I'm not talking about, people who are, fussing about not being the media perfect body, right? And we had like 6 or 7 years run of this incredible community building, fun, amazing thing. And I had to quit to write my dissertation because my dissertation was like languishing. I had already written a book called Great Shape with Pat Lyons.
Yes.
We were both really interested in what does it look like to provide access to physical activity that isn't, kind of framed around weight loss. We talked in the book about there's not really, how important it was to understand this is not an obligation of fat people.
Yes.
But it's a right. Like you should have gear that works and fits, and you should have environments that are free from weight stigma, and you should, be able to not have to, also struggle with the oppression at the same time that you're trying to live your life, right?
Yes.
So that class was awesome.
Absolutely. I kind of want to go to your early days in becoming an eating disorder specialist. I'm so curious.
So I just haven't had much to really say on this last part. The Deb seems kind of weird to me, and I don't think that fat people really face that much oppression. I don't think that people... I mean, there are some assholes at the gyms for sure, but most people are going to stick up for you and be like, don't be a fucking dick. Someone's trying to lose weight. Someone's trying to exercise. Someone's trying to be healthier. Leave them the fuck alone.
Well, I did have a sort of stretch of 6 years or so, from maybe 13 to 19. My mom took me to Weight Watchers at 13. I was trying to sort of, do the dieting thing in the summer, and so I think I weight cycled a fair bit. And I remember coming back to college, and I had kind of dissociated that summer. I mean, I just spent the summer lying out in the sun and eating tuna from a can, with nothing.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of, coming to in the fall as I'm walking back to my dorm, and I'm sort of feeling my hip bones, and I'm thinking, what the fuck just happened? And I'm thinking, why is this a good thing?
Yes.
I don't feel like myself, and I don't really know why I'm doing this. There was supposed to be this reason for me to be thinner, that it would give me something, but I was just so lucky. I was at the college I wanted to be at. I was involved with who I wanted to be involved with. I was kind of like, I've got what I want. So what is this for?
Right.
I felt powerful in other ways.
Right.
I remember being in 5th grade, and I had gone to a new school, and there were girls like going steady with boys already, and it was kind of like, oh no. And I had thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to wait by a phone for a boy to call me? Like, what the hell? I was just kind of thinking, I can't win this game. I want to play a game that I can win.
Right.
I can't win this game. I'm never going to be that girl. But there are things that I am really good at. And so I invested in those things, I think. And so this sort of dieting thing through my teens was sort of a, kind of good faith effort to conform,
yes.
Which kind of blew up finally, and kind of, no, this is the last vestige of this thing. It's just kind of not. And, my sister, was coming along 4 years later and really doing more of the conventional stuff, and sort of being successful at it, but also developing an eating disorder. It was really weighing on me,
So to me, what I'm getting from Deb is that she was a little bit of the weird kid. And I love, though, that she's trying to say that, my sister was able to conform, but she got an eating disorder. Like, I don't know, there's just something that suggests that, like, she's trying to suggest that people that do it well clearly have some major issue that they are dealing with, when that's not necessarily the case. Like, there's just this general thing with the fat acceptance movement where they demonize those that fit into society better. And the thing is that everyone has their shit. Everyone has their shit. Everyone has something that makes them weird. Everyone has something that, average social expectations would frown upon for one reason or another. For some people, these weird things are minor, and some people can just cover them up better. To me, it sounds like neither Deb nor Virgie were ever good at covering up their weirdness. And as someone who was one of the weird kids for other reasons and had a sister that was much better at conforming, to me, even that, like, little aside of, but she developed an eating disorder. I don't know, it seems like she's still trying to... Deb still seems like she's trying to project this sort of superiority because she didn't get the validation as a kid. And perhaps I'm going too far into armchair psychology for that one, but let me know what you think.
I was worried about her. She was really struggling at some points in time. And my mom had struggled so much with her weight, and my dad's had been a weight cycler and been so exposed to all that stuff in med school. And so I think I ended up doing these intellectual searches that were really about what is the effect of the culture on our feelings about our bodies and our relationship with our bodies and our ability to take care of and be motivated to feel like nurturing ourselves. And then when I was in grad school interviews, I remember them asking me, what do you want to do your research on? And I was saying, women and our appetites. I want to do stuff on our appetites. I want to look at desire and how do we resist, and how do we deal with violence about it, and how do we deal with, oppression around it, and how do we fight for our well-being,
Yeah.
And I guess my whole, kind of coming of age was also the coming of age of the first stages of this field, which there's so much wrong with it.
Absolutely. What are some of the major issues you see in the world of eating disorder treatment and diagnosis?
Well, there's a real investment that a lot of the specialists in eating disorder have in making sure that anorexia is more of a purity standard of white supremacy than an actual disease, like that makes an actual disease category.
Okay.
So one of the ways that manifests is that you have to, a lot of people believe you have to be emaciated to be diagnosed with anorexia. And my analogy for that is always to have them think about, let's say you're a plane and it's 40,000 feet and you lose an engine. Are you going to wait to say, oh, we should do something about that until you are almost, skimming the mountaintops? Like.
Well, but isn't there atypical anorexia? Like, granted, I can respect that she has a higher level of education than I do in this particular field, in which I have very limited understanding. But my understanding was that there were like degrees of anorexia, aren't there? There's anorexia where you are emaciated and it's treated as more of an emergency situation, and then there's atypical anorexia where there's a bit gentler approach because it's not an emergency yet. There's ways of working with people that don't require extreme measures if it's not an extreme situation.
Yes. Like, is that what you want?
So here's a fact. All sorts of people with all sorts of bodies can have eating disorders. But even in ED treatment, people get different treatments depending on the size of their bodies. Your body experiences food.
Yes, you get different treatment based on your size in this particular situation because it's not an emergency the way it is for an emaciated person.
Food restriction as a threat. It does not like threats. After you stop restricting, whether it's a diet you read about in a magazine or an ED, your body will do the magical healing work of gaining weight. This is called weight restoration. That's when your body tries to get itself to a place where it feels safe and good again. And
your body is not... So this is something else that happens repeatedly in the fat acceptance and fat liberation movement that really kind of drives me up the wall, is that they treat their body like a separate entity. It's like, so where your body feels safe. And your body is just... For lack of a better analogy, view your body as a machine. It's gonna have an output based on what you put in. And so if you put in more than it needs, it's going to create that as weight. It's not a matter of it feeling safe. There are probably algorithms within your body. Sorry, the machine thing is the best analogy that I can give for it. But there's like algorithms in it if you're losing weight too fast to cut resources in certain places, and that's why your hair may fall out and that sort of thing. I don't think that like your body isn't just trying to feel safe. That feeling safe is a very intellectualized emotion. Like there's like 5 basic emotions, and then general stuff kind of takes off from there. It was like fear, happiness, sadness, anger, and disgust were like the and then I think surprise was 6. But feeling safe is a very intellectualized emotion that is not... You can feel the physiological manifestation of anger. You can feel relaxed. Your body's not feeling relaxed, but you feel relaxed. You feel that anger and stuff. Feeling safe is very much an intellectualized emotion. Your body doesn't feel safe. I don't know, that whole weight restoration thing just feels like when you give up, you're gonna gain weight, and that's okay because it's so you're safe. It's a way of justifying them giving up, I think.
And that place, that weight where it feels safe, it's known as the set point. Set point is the weight range in which your body functions.
You can actually change your set point. Set point is like a loose thing that can happen. And in general, from what I've read, if you're trying to lose weight, you lose like 10% of your body, then you maintain for a couple of months, and then you try to lose like another 10%, and it's going to be easier to lose weight because your set point changes. The set point is a genetic thing. It can change throughout your life.
Best. It's why dieting, restriction, and even surgical intervention don't tend to work long term. But in most ED recovery, doctors prescribe a weight for you, a kind of target weight, regardless of what your natural set point is. So that means the wisdom of your body can be at odds with what the doctor has deemed to be
your body does not have wisdom. Your body is a machine that is adjusting based on your habits.
Your target weight. And that is a problem. When your set point is higher than your doctor's target weight, then you will likely find yourself being encouraged to start restricting again, even though you're in recovery for an eating disorder. This is really backwards and really harmful.
Not every form of restriction is an eating disorder. Even if you've been like yo-yo dieting throughout your life, that's still not an eating disorder. In and of itself, it's not.
It reintroduces fat phobia when that's a big part of what, in fact, a lot of people in eating recovery are trying to heal from. So effed up. But there is a simple solution. Stop equating a low weight with wellness. And if you're fat, guess what? You are not a failed thin person. You're just a person whose body thrives at a bigger size. It can.
All right, we're gonna actually stop it there. This actually ended up being a little less than 30 minutes because there really wasn't a whole lot to comment on in the first part with Deb going over her background and stuff. At least there wasn't for me. It seems like there's going to be more to comment on going forward, so we will move forward with this episode. I thought there was some definitely cringy things in it, but not so much to deter me personally. So we're going to move on with this next week, but for now I'm going to leave it here. Let me know what you think about this. I thought this was a little bit weird, but I feel like it gets at some of the core tenets of their fat acceptance, fat liberation stuff or rhetoric, and like it's pretty clear to see why it's an issue. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.